right. To those listening live or to our patrons, welcome back. To those listening weekly, welcome to the Brainstorm Rectable, the Brainstorm production where we spend some time discussing one topic or many, depending on the way the conversation flows. This is an open brainstorming session where I kick things off with some thoughts and we see where things go from there. I'm Cory, and my panel tonight are Rene.
Hello.
Sarah.
Hello.
And of course, the always amazing Dave.
Always.
We're broadcasting live from Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is November 9th, 2018. I thought that we could maybe talk a little bit about the election on Tuesday, the U.S. midterms.
The U.S. clusterfuck?
Yeah. It was, in my view, almost boring. Like, I watched 6 or 7 different YouTube live feeds on it, but it was like everything almost seemed to happen exactly as it was predicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there was. I mean, I didn't follow it closely enough I didn't watch it day of. I looked at stuff after.
I think it panned out that way simply because Trump has dug himself so into the ground that it was the only way this would work.
Right.
You know, it was going to be this massive backlash.
Yeah,
even though, of course, he's claiming victory,
Right. Wow. Republicans did take the Senate.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't have it already, but
They made gains. At least.
Yeah,
they made gains in the Senate and massive losses in
the House.
Although apparently the Senate isn't in total lockdown,
right?
Because there's still a couple clusterfucks going on with that.
Right, yeah. There was a lot of fucking issues with voting booths and lineups, and some voting stations had to be extended hours, and
there's some kind of shady shenanigans.
But will anything come of that? Like, I mean, it's shady shenanigans that Trump never published his tax reports, and that just went away. And
this is a case of,
be like, oh no, it's fine.
This is still
won,
being,
so shut up.
As of I was just listening to MSNBC on my way here,
Yeah.
and they're still fighting it out right now.
Yeah,
right. I guess I'm just not optimistic that fight will end up in a just outcome. It'll just be like, no, we won. Maybe
I don't know
things
how
are bad,
it's going to
but
pan. I don't know how
fine.
it's going to pan out, but
I'm
they're
so
still fighting it
cynical.
out right now.
Yeah,
So it'll be interesting.
I think I don't know.
There's a couple Senate seats that are they're still tallying votes, and they're starting to swing towards the Democrats.
Right, and if it gets close enough, then like within 0.5% in some places or 1% in some places, they have to do a runoff election.
That one
or
a recount in some cases, and in the case in Georgia, I don't really know American politics, so I'm it sound like I'm kind of talking like I know what the fuck I'm talking about, but I really don't. But in the case of the Georgia governor election, that one is supposed to go to a runoff.
Okay,
if there isn't, it has to be like a clear 51% majority, which is still really up in the air at the moment. Mind you, that one was a clusterfuck itself, but. If that one isn't clearly determined, then it has to go to a runoff election.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I thought it was they got was it like felons in Florida?
Yes,
get the vote. Like
1.4 million people get the vote.
Because isn't Florida again? I don't know enough about American politics, but my impression from what I hear is that Florida is just a bullshit state in a lot of ways, right? So it's like if there was any state that was going to do that, I was surprised that it was Florida, right? Because don't they just love locking up black people? Isn't that like their jam?
Florida is just Florida.
Well, that's what I mean. Is like that's always been my impression. Is like that you can't put it into words. It's just it's Florida, right? Like, and I'm like, oh, but they're letting.
Sunshine and meth.
Convicts. They're letting convicts have the vote. Oh, I'm shocked.
Those 1.4 million people that can vote now might be enough to sway an election in the future.
Although I was listening to, I think it was Vox, where they were talking about that, and they said it's good that they're getting the vote, and that cleared it, so that'll be for the next election.
Yeah.
But they said that it's a mixed bag because it's once again it divides along. A lot of it divides on racial lines. Plus, they don't a lot of felons or ex-felons that still technically had the right to vote didn't necessarily vote. So
yeah, that's true. It doesn't mean they have the right to vote, but it doesn't mean they will.
And it didn't really, it doesn't automatically give a big
1.4 million votes to Democrats.
Or it doesn't give one big gift basket to any one party.
Right. Although, I mean, I've heard other sources talking about it where a lot of those are suspected to be Democratic votes.
Yeah. So I mean, it could be.
It could be enough to help in some ways.
Yeah.
Or at least like something else. I was listening to some other podcast that if nothing else, it will make Republicans more have to fight for votes that they wouldn't like. They could maybe just ignore that whole sector of society because it's like, no, we got plenty of white men in here. We'll just as long as they all vote for us, we're fine. Whereas now they might actually have to care about other people besides white people, right? Just because there's more of them voting now that you have to at least get some sectors
to put on a show of it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Which theoretically,
we could always cross our fingers and hope that a lot of Republicans end up in jail after Trump. We can always hope,
which kind of brings us to Sessions. In stepping down, like what do you think is going to happen there?
Well, that's already a clusterfuck.
Yeah, he was asked to leave. Is my impression.
Essentially forced to
and
resign.
Not even Trump firing him, but like telling John Kelly to go fire him, and he did that via phone call. Not
he was asked for his resignation, and he gave it, even though that was my understanding. Is like even in his resignation letter, you've asked for my resignation, so here it is.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's my understanding. Okay. Like from what I was.
So that's kind of, I mean, that still puts the onus on to Trump, right? So then there might actually be. I was listening to a legal podcast, Opening Arguments today, and they're talking about how the rules are weird with the way he appoints the next guy to come in.
I was literally watching. Well, granted, it's leftist media, but I was watching something where they were talking about that and how this has all gone about. This is all kinds of wrong because.
But what hasn't been wrong going on, and like he still just keeps getting away with stuff.
At this point, like if Robert Mueller gets canned or funding cut or whatever,
that was always like the line where other Republicans would be like,
right?
But we thought so many other things with the line.
But one of the ones that were saying that red line was Lindsey Graham, and now he's.
Lindsey fucking Graham.
Now
his face is just as red as Trump's ass because that's where he's been.
That's right.
But what happened to him?
He was one of the guys who was very much like, oh well, if he fires Jeff Sessions, then that's the end of
That's the red line.
But he's going to have hell to pay. But he's been kissing ass. So bad.
I saw the Kavanaugh.
And, he's been kissing Trump's ass like
Trumpish. Yeah.
But the rules apparently are. Something along the lines of if you fire a guy, then the follow-up guy comes up. Like you can't assign somebody to that role.
Okay. Well, because, so who's second in line after?
So now that should be
Rod Rosenstein?
Should be Rosenstein.
But I thought he was canned or getting canned. That was just rumors then.
That's what they keep saying, but that's another case. If they fire him, that just keeps adding up the obstruction of justice. So from what I was watching, is it should be Rod Rosenstein gets bumped up.
Right.
Because, and this is where the loophole is where this other numbnut that he's trying to get in there. Rosenstein has been, what's the proper word? But accepted by Senate, by Congress or whatever. Confirmed. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. Whereas Whitaker hasn't.
Right.
So he has no business being the attorney general, acting or otherwise.
Is Whitaker the guy under Rosenstein, or the guy Trump just wants to be?
That Trump just appointed?
Yeah,
he has next to no experience.
Well, that's like everybody he's appointed, though. Why is Betsy DeVos the interest?
Like Whitaker is funny because he's actually written articles in the past about how the Mueller investigation has gone too far and it needs to be defunded.
It's like everything else. He's basically
it's a clear conflict of interest.
Because he auditioned on Fox News, like how everyone else gets a job in the Trump.
Well, because they know Trump watches. So.
Well, you kiss his ass on TV. Hey, I like the cut of his jib. Get him a big job. But that's just it. But he was also, I mean, technically he is a lawyer, so we'll give him that.
So good.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But so was Michael Cohen.
Let's get him a job as the Attorney General. Woohoo! But he was in part of some shady investment group, basically like a home shopping thing that was shut down by the FCC, I think it was, and fined.
Right.
Because it was total sham.
See that does that even matter? Like that's really like a really tiny detail.
No. I mean, Trump became president, and he had a scam university that everyone conveniently forgets.
And didn't pay contractors and grabbed pussies. At this point anymore, it's like I love like John Oliver's like, oh, we got him. It's just like a minute. It's like that same thing. It's like,
I find it morbidly funny is that I have this love-hate relationship with comment sections. I go to them and I like, just because it's,
can't help it.
Yeah, you can't help it. It's just a train wreck. I have to keep watching. And it's so funny to watch because people are like, Trump is awesome, fucking libtards, blah. It's like, the man is a train wreck. And
the fact that you can't see that. I totally get people support him at the beginning because he was different and he wasn't a politician and he's a businessman, because they just did. I like to believe that people just didn't know, right?
Well, they conveniently,
But now it's like blatantly, like, just listen to the shit that comes out of his mouth. And if you're still supporting him at this point, then you're a trash human. I'm sorry. That's terrible to say. I don't think any human should be below other humans, but
I mean, I find
at a certain point, it's like
I find it a train wreck to watch because, like, this is something I'd never heard before. I was listening to MSNBC, which, yes, liberal, fucking blah 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 blah.
All the reliable news networks with liberal media.
Blah blah blah. Put it in the comment section, whatever. But I'd never heard this before, where they were about to play a clip from one of his rallies just prior to the election.
Okay.
And they're like, we have to say this. Just to clarify, everything the president says in the following clip is a lie. And I'm like, holy shit, they said that?
They don't generally say that.
You don't say that. Like, I mean, we're all used to politicians, and there's always spin, right?
Oh, yeah.
But usually, even though...
But he lies about things that are just, like, to the plain observer.
Well, just
like things you don't need to, like, even just like the inauguration crowd. Like, you didn't even have to lie about that. You'd be like, you just get inaugurated and you're like, I'm happy to be president now, thank you very much, and go on. No, he made a point of being, there's the biggest crowd, like.
And that's the thing that the media has been screwing up with, right? Is like that, even though it's like that, they still play it as though he's a real politician who they have to pretend he's not lying.
Yeah.
And yet, I very clearly remember when Barack Obama was walking in to give one of his State of the Union addresses. Mm-hmm. They were yelling, "You're a liar!" to the president as he's going to give a speech, even though it's Barack Obama, who, okay, sure, he might have spun some stuff somewhat, but he was not a lying man.
And even if he did lie, like, let's pretend all politicians lie, and that's, maybe a good number of them do, but none has lied this much, this compulsively about things that did not need to be even lied about, right? Like,
blatantly.
A politician is always going to lie if it's going to, benefit them in some way, to really bring home point, to gloss over things that are, whatever, to save their own ass. But he'll lie about stuff that doesn't even matter. And it's just like, if you're willing to lie about stuff that you don't need to for the sake of
normally with politicians, you can take a clip of them saying something, and then you can find this clip, and then you kind of go, you have to kind of squint to see where they spun it.
Right.
Yeah.
Trump, you can find
just
the clip.
So blatant, yeah.
You can find a clip where he's saying one thing, and you can find a clip saying the absolute opposite, and usually they're about maybe 5 minutes apart.
Yeah, tweets from when Obama was in power and then like he does the exact same thing, tweets the exact same opposite.
He can contradict himself in the same fucking press conference.
But I mean, people believe the Bible, and it contradicts itself all the time too. So like, it's people.
That's true.
People love if you believe in something, you believe in something, and that's just that. And I think maybe again, being new to politics, I think so many people just believed in Trump as this savior. He was so different and refreshing and not a politician, and like so many things that they just grasped onto with like a religious fervor that now they're so deluded that no amount of evidence is going to show them that they're wrong.
That Trump was more like a Rorschach test. It didn't matter what he said. People just interpreted.
See what they want to see.
See what they wanted to see. Read whatever they wanted to what he said.
Yeah.
And
it was just alluring because it was something different and new and flashy.
I mean, and
they watched him on reality TV or whatever, right? Like, he had enough stuff to sway people. But I think so many people got so into it that nobody wants to admit that they fucked up. So you just double down, right? Like, you're in too deep at this point. You're going to just keep seeing what you want to see and spinning everything. He said, well, no, he's just telling it like it is. He's telling it like it is. And he's trying to do
What about
this
the situation with this CNN reporter that's been banned from
that's such a load of shit too.
White House briefings.
Yeah, they pulled his press pass, right?
Well, what happened from my understanding is just that Trump came out with guns blazing. And Jake Tapper he's one of the few that actually holds Trump's feet to the fire.
Right.
And Trump just lashed out at him, you're a rude person. And I've heard some Republican pundits trying to defend that, yes, he was yelling over people and being rude or whatever. And, maybe he was a little bit rude, but at this point, fuck Trump. Like, really, fuck Trump.
Yeah. Was it Tapper or Costa?
Oh, Costa. Sorry, I keep saying Tapper, but it is. It was Jim Acosta. Yes,
I thought so.
I thought somebody else also got the
credit.
No,
I screwed up the reporter's name. No, it was Jim Acosta. And apparently they released a video to try to justify it, and apparently it was an InfoWars video, which they adjusted. Because what happened was, as he's trying to get his questions off and exchanging with the president, my understanding of it, and I could be wrong, is that then an intern came in to basically yank his mic. And as he was gesturing, he actually hit her and was like, oh, I'm sorry. Didn't realize you were there. And they edited it so it looked like...
They sped it up so it looked like he smacked her.
Yeah,
and then was moving his
And then
hand.
it's like, oh, yeah, he assaulted this woman and blah, 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 blah. But it was bullshit.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is because Trump is always, he's been threatening to take away people's press pass from day one if they didn't show him the proper respect, which means kiss his ass.
Yeah.
Because he only does interviews with Fox News when they're like, oh, Mr. President, you're awesome. And then he babbles incessantly for half an hour. Like,
it's right.
Yeah. Well, and then... Yeah, I don't know. How long are we doing this part versus the next part? Because I feel like this just leads it. Like, this is like Trump, and then there's Trump Max.
Yeah, that's right. We have Trump on...
Turbo Trump.
Like, genuine, not even hiding it, fascist version of Trump. Like, Bolsonaro
I didn't know too much about it, but the problem is that's a little bit different.
Well, it is
because
different than Trump.
It's different than Trump, but it's also because it's a different...
Yeah.
Because Brazil was ruled by a military junta for how long?
Right.
So it creates a different kind of atmosphere. Yeah. Trump is new to the American... there's parallels.
That's true.
Parallels to Nixon, but this is new. Whereas a fascist after a military junta... kind of see the connection, because it's kind of like when I was reading up about it, and I don't know a whole lot, but I was like, I think what you get is like, it's just like you do have people that are nostalgic for the communist regimes in some of the Eastern, right? Because when they were running things, you didn't have to worry about stuff. You didn't have to worry about the bread lines were there because they just,
it just didn't get to eat.
Well, yeah, you were just told where to go and you did it and that was it. Like you didn't have things to worry about,
I guess, again, my naive upbringing and not knowing anything about any other country or even really much about my own is like seeing the things he said, like, just like I had 4 sons and then I must have weakened and had a daughter or something, like just real. Like I don't know enough about Brazil to know if that's out of the ordinary and it's a new thing, or
I don't know if
he's just the last in a whole line of awful people that.
Well, I'm not sure how
it's still
it gets in Brazil.
It's just it still scares me that we're seeing this kind of stuff more and more. And is that just because we're now more globally connected, or actually paying attention to other countries' politics?
I think what it is more like, if you look at the rise of fascism originally, it's the same kind of thing, is that fear is what drives it.
Yeah.
And you have with, the refugee crisis caused by Syria and then going into Europe and, other places, it creates that fear. And that's where you have the rise of fascism or, the alt-right or any of these kind of things. It's that fear that drives that.
Well, even like Brexit, it was very fear-based too,
right?
Which
that was a total cluster.
Yeah, I never thought the UK was... again, I was just naive. I thought the only racists were, in backwoods USA and Saskatchewan.
Yeah. And it's the same thing, right? Like, it's that fear of... the immigrant, the other,
take
the
our
outsiders,
jobs and take our everything.
We'll talk about this later too. Is like this entire right wing type thing, this far right thing, is built on a platform of fear.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I'll admit I don't know enough about Brazilian culture to know where this guy kind of came out of.
I'm not entirely sure about the history, and I'm not even really sure how he got enough support to be elected, because as far as I know, according to people that I've talked to and things that I've read, Lula, the previous guy, was actually pretty well liked, and a lot of this stuff that came out about him being corrupt and taking money was kind of pretty obvious frame-up job by the fascists and the military and the people who own the media, who want to install a capitalist fascist society or like economy and system. It just seems like, this is just from people that I've talked to and things I've read, but he has, even before he was fully elected, he was going into sending people into colleges where he was taking like any books about fascism off the shelves, anybody who would educate,
or anything to do with like human rights, and stuff like that.
It's pretty extreme, and he's going to sell off the Amazon rainforests, acre by acre, according to him. I just got sent an article not that long ago about how there's actually indigenous tribes within the rainforest who are planning to resist as much as they can. But
that's not going to end.
I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Fascist dictator with a military going after indigenous
and one
tribes.
that gives zero shits about anybody that's not them, right?
I've read enough stuff where once the military goes into those areas, there's been stories of like in the 50s and 60s where villages just disappeared overnight.
He was like openly saying at like that one video, him speaking not at a rally but on the phone and projected at a rally or something, that like he'll jail all of his opponents and he'll just jail you, like you either get out of the country or you're going to jail or you do it our way, like very blatantly and obviously, like I will destroy anybody who opposes me kind of thing. So there's not going to be any sort of opposition government that's keeping them in check or anything. So like it's one thing to say like lock her up and another thing to say, you will rot in jail for the rest of your
his
lives.
Political, like I said,
Everybody,
Lula is
right?
in jail. His political opponent is sitting in jail already. So it's I don't know.
It's good times.
It is like me and Dave were talking earlier about a bit about Pinochet and Chile, and it is reminiscent of that same type of just take over the country and install what you need for your pure free market fucking ideology. Which is similar to what people want to do in the U.S., but it is
Banana Republicans. Yay!
Yeah, basically.
Good time.
So I don't know. I think that is probably good enough for the rec table. It's a short one, but it's depressing. Depressing. So we can go to another quick music and ad break, and then we'll have the Shift to Reason Radio.
If you like what we're doing and want to help us keep the lights on, go become a patron at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. You can hear the bonus half hour that we record every episode and get a shout out when you support the show. Become a patron for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/Brainstorm Podcast. Or you can support the show by ordering a t-shirt, mug or other gear from our store at caffeepress.ca/Brainstorm Podcast Gear. If you can't afford to become a patron or buy gear, then why not give us a rating or write a review on iTunes or Stitcher? Every rating makes it easier for people to find us. Thanks for your support.
Hi, my name's Callie.
And I'm Ari.
If you're like most of us, you're very concerned about the gay agenda's plans for world domination.
Are you tired of seeing glitter all over every damn thing?
Do you hate rainbows as much as any other red-blooded American?
Then we have the answer for all your baseless fears and unjustified paranoia.
Presented exclusively on Secular Media Network, the Gaytheist Manifesto is your source for news, commentary, discussion, and debate at the intersection of the atheist movement and the LGBT rights movement.
You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, and at gaytheistmanifesto.secularmediagroup.com.
If you're not ready to get in line for your mandatory gay marriage and you're terrified of short-haired women in pantsuits, come have a listen and get up to date on their plans. You'll be glad you did.
So I wanted to write a rant on the far right and their rise to prominence, the fear for marginalized people that this fills me with, and the need for action of some kind to stop them from carrying out even more harmful acts or gaining any more power. But I keep getting caught up in the details. There's a reason that there are multiple people writing books on this subject from multiple angles. The far right isn't just one thing, it's many. They are well-funded, totally propagandized, living in an alternate universe, and they're a danger to everyone around them. They could just be the guy in the cubicle next to you, and you might never know it. So much of the information that I've been reading, listening to, and talking to people about needs to be spread, but the way to do that isn't clear. Should we inform people about extremist groups? Should we share with them the history of right-wing extremism? Should we help them understand the link between the extremists and the mainstream conservatives? How about drawing a line through ideology from rich white guys who don't want to pay taxes to propaganda machines that they fund to extremists who take action by shooting innocent people? Where do we even start to educate people who think that the right and left are just two different types of ideology and not the literal difference between dangerous and safe? There's a reason that hate watch exists on the SPLC website. It's not because of leftists who break windows. There's a reason that the stats show an overwhelming majority of terror attacks within the US coming from right-wing extremists and not from leftists or Islamists. Some people like to paint terror with a particular color or describe it as being from a culture other than their own. But they have to be dishonest or ignorant to fully embrace that. Terror is almost entirely white in North America, and it is overwhelmingly Christian and conservative. And the right-wing media like Fox and The Rebel actually embrace that, even though they try to hide it. They still talk about refugees being the danger you could face when it's actually your flag-waving neighbor. They talk about the left harassing Tucker Carlson at his McMansion, or they talk about politicians who can't go out to eat because they won't serve them. But they completely ignore the hateful rhetoric they promote and the actual death that it causes. And I'm not even talking about the damage caused by policy. I'm just talking about the way that Fox News and AM radio turn white men into extremists who think that the government is secretly run by Jews who want to take away all their guns and eliminate the white race by breeding them out of existence. Even typing this all out, it feels kind of crazy. It sounds like I've turned into a left-wing conspiracy nut, except the evidence is there. You can actually draw a line from economists to wealthy investors to news outlets to extremist groups. And when you throw Donald Trump into the mix, emboldening these people to action, that's when you get the stuff we've seen over the last 2 months. I'm honestly terrified not just at the actions that can happen in the short term, but of what can happen in the long term if this stuff isn't acknowledged and dealt with. The left is losing in America, and they will, if they lose there, then that shit can move anywhere. The rich are fully willing and able to subvert democracy if they think it infringes on their freedom, and they consider any taxes at all to fall within that category. They will continue to stir up the extremists, and they will continue to undermine politics if it means they don't have to give their money away. You can see it in everyday politics. The right wants to cut taxes to the rich at all costs. They use wedge issues to separate people and polarize voters. They often pass laws and budgets that they publicly claim will help the middle class, and they blame any failure of that on low-income earners and any marginalized group that they can. The link between polarization of extremists and dissemination of their message is the media. The internet makes it easy for these people to connect, but it's the media that sends the message. Those people are your enemy. Those people are a danger to you. Those people hate you. They hate your country. They hate freedom. This is the message that is sent to conservatives all across the world, not just America and not just Canada. It's a message we need to find a way to counter. I'm not sure how, but we do need to do something because things are getting pretty far gone, and as far as I can tell, they're getting worse at an alarming rate. Let's cue the outro music. For all the things, you can check out the show notes at our website, brainstormblog.net, or on our hosting page at thebrainstormpodcast.com. Thanks to our financial supporters, Kayla, Janet, Kim, Stephanie, Zach, the Utah Outcasts, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Bob Glenn, Destin doesn't suck that much, Magnus, several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave, Positively Skeptical, Rob, the Podunk Polymath, the Flying Spaghetti Monster, Sauce Be Upon Him, Freethinker215, and Larry. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast, or go buy some stuff at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. Join us every 2 weeks on brainstormradio.net. Our next live show is on November 23rd, and our guest is going to be Dr. Jen Gunter, wielder of the Lasso of Truth. That'll be cool. I want to give a big thanks to Coven for joining us. You can find more of her stuff at facebook.com/ksynapathy. So make sure to check that out. I want to thank my panel, Sarah.
Hello.
Renee. Hello. And Dave.
Yep.
Thanks. Thanks, Dave, for our intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from Embrace the Void for doing the voiceover for our intro. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Kapper-Murdoch for our voiceover for our ads, and thanks to Jason Como for our outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Make sure to tune in to brainstormafterhours.com for the bonus content before it goes patron only. Remember to give us a rating, a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our subreddit, sign up on it for the newsletter, share the show, and spread the word. The more you share, comment, and like our stuff, the more it helps the show grow. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel, any guests, or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
Taboo. Where if you're crossing that taboo,